Have you ever wondered whether the biggest royal decisions are made long before the public hears a single word? According to recent reports, Princess Anne was left genuinely stunned after a private conversation with her brother, King Charles. And it wasn't because of anything involving Camilla's current title. That chapter has already been written since the coronation. Instead, the discussion reportedly focused on something much bigger. What Camilla's place within the monarchy could look like once Charles is no longer on the throne. Sources suggest the king has finally reached a firm decision, ending years of uncertainty surrounding a question that palace insiders had quietly avoided. If those reports are accurate, it wasn't just another family meeting. It may have been a defining moment for the future of the monarchy itself. Before we dive deeper, if you enjoy thoughtful royal analysis that goes beyond the headlines, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more updates as this story develops. So, why did this meeting matter so much? According to reports, the atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace had been noticeably different for weeks before Charles and Anne met. There were no public signs of drama or disagreement. In fact, it was the opposite. Staff reportedly noticed an unusual level of silence. Meetings became more discreet, schedules changed without explanation, and conversations seemed to end whenever certain senior figures entered the room. Those who have worked around the royal household for years often recognize this kind of silence as a sign that an important issue is being discussed behind closed doors. At the center of that speculation was King Charles himself. Reports describe him as unusually reflective in recent weeks, appearing to spend considerable time considering a decision that carried enormous personal and constitutional significance. The issue, however, wasn't whether Camilla should remain queen. That debate had effectively ended when she was crowned alongside Charles. After decades of public controversy and years spent gradually rebuilding her image through steady royal service, many believed the most difficult part of her journey was finally behind her. But inside palace circles, attention reportedly shifted toward an entirely different question. What happens after Charles? Unlike most families, the royal family cannot simply make these decisions as circumstances change. Every title, every ceremonial role, and every constitutional responsibility must be carefully planned years in advance. A transition between monarchs affects the entire institution, and even seemingly small decisions can have lasting consequences. That reportedly left Charles facing a deeply personal dilemma. On one side stood his loyalty to Camilla, a relationship that survived decades of criticism, public scrutiny, and extraordinary personal sacrifice. Charles is believed to recognize everything she endured before finally being accepted as queen. On the other side stood his duty as sovereign. History has repeatedly shown that monarchs are expected to place the institution above personal relationships whenever those two responsibilities come into conflict. According to reports, advisors spent months reviewing constitutional precedent, examining previous royal transitions, and evaluating different possibilities for how Camilla's future role could be handled after Charles's reign. None of the options came without complications. The challenge was finding a balance between honoring Camilla's contributions while also ensuring stability for the next generation of the monarchy. For quite some time, that question reportedly remained unresolved. Palace officials understood it would eventually require an answer, yet no one seemed eager to force a final decision. Eventually, however, Charles is said to have concluded that uncertainty itself had become a problem. According to sources familiar with the discussions, senior advisors argued that establishing clear plans now would prevent confusion and unnecessary speculation during a future transition. Rather than leaving William to resolve sensitive constitutional questions under enormous public pressure, they believed it would be wiser to settle those issues in advance. Once the king accepted that reasoning, everything reportedly moved much more quickly. Conversations that had remained theoretical suddenly became practical. Planning replaced speculation, and the direction of future preparations became increasingly clear. That brings us to the private meeting with Princess Anne. Private conversations between the king and his sister are nothing unusual, but reports claim this particular meeting was handled with an exceptional level of discretion. Attendance was reportedly limited, additional security measures were observed, and only a handful of trusted individuals were aware that the discussion was taking place. To experienced palace observers, those details suggested that the subject carried unusual constitutional importance. Anne reportedly entered the meeting expecting another serious conversation. Instead, she was presented with a decision that had already been made. Sources claim Charles wasn't asking for advice or seeking approval. He simply explained the course he had chosen and made it clear that the matter had been settled. Observers familiar with accounts of the conversation say, Anne listened quietly as Charles outlined his long-term vision, not only for Camilla's future position, but for how the monarchy itself would navigate the eventual transition to Prince William's reign. If those reports are accurate, it wasn't merely a discussion about one royal title. It was a conversation about shaping the future structure of the crown for years to come.